From the Sonoran Desert to the cloud forest of western Ecuador,
We only got 5 hours to go. Piece of cake.
the tiny hummingbird always attracts the interest of scientists. Intercontinental studies are adding to our knowledge of these winged jewels, and their preservation is helping to maintain local economies.
Tiene mucho aquí.
Sí, hay como unas 4,000 matas sembradas.
Funding for The Desert Speaks was provided by Desert Program Partners, representing concerned viewers making a financial commitment to the education about and preservation of deserts, and by the Stonewall Foundation.
There she goes.
When the Spaniards first arrived here, one of the wonders of what they called the New World was a tiny bird called the hummingbird. The fascination continues, and biologists and naturalists are still probing the secrets of this tiny beast in North and South America.
The Sonoran Desert is the best place in the United States to study hummingbirds, as my longtime friends Steve and Ruth Russell have been doing for decades.
In the fall of the year, we're especially interested in the southbound migration of hummingbirds because southern Arizona is blessed in being in a major migratory route. And this particular place, for whatever reason, has more hummingbirds moving through it than any other place that I'm aware of. The number of birds here are incredible. They're in the thousands, meaning thousands of birds moving through in any one day.
Bill is smooth, it's a 99 male.
We've been banding here for about 12 years now.
02.
Black-chin hummingbirds that we're catching so many of this morning migrate to the southern end of the Mexican plateau for the winter. And then they come back in late March and nest here again. Broadbills do not go as far south, but the hummingbirds that come through in the fall of the year may have nested in British Columbia, Alberta, or even Alaska.
This female is not only in breeding condition, but she's about to lay an egg. Now, if I said 9, it would be a clearly visible egg, and she's probably going to lay it today. She'll probably lay this one tomorrow.
The typical pattern in hummingbirds is they wake up very early in the morning, and if the night has been cool, then they are hungry. They have depleted all of their food resources and staying alive during the night and staying warm, so they have to go find something to eat. So hummingbirds do a lot of feeding very early. Broadbills learn, black-chins don't learn. People who have studied the activity patterns of hummingbirds, as in these black-chin hummingbirds, have found that male hummingbirds, even though they seem to be flying around and chasing other birds all the time, sit for about 80% of the daylight hours. The nectar is the carbohydrate source. It's a high-energy source. But hummingbirds cannot live on nectar alone. They do require protein sources and fat sources. And fats and proteins typically come from insects. Their heartbeat is 400 times a minute, up to 1,000 times a minute. Their breathing may be so fast that you can't see it happening. When you see their tongue in a sugar water feeder or a flower, their tongue is going into the flower at a rate of about 12 or 14 times a second. And the tongue has a couple of little grooves on it. And when the tip of the tongue reaches the nectar source, then the nectar flows into those little tubes. The hum of a flying hummingbird is caused by the wing beat. And in these small hummingbirds we're seeing here, the wing beat is 50 or 60 times a second. So when I hold a hummingbird in my hand, I'm holding this amazing creature that is so efficient at doing so many things, and yet is absolutely fearless. They're tough little creatures. They're capable of all of these astounding feats.
Now, I have carpenter bees in my yard, and they can hover.
Do they fly backwards?
Well, I think they do when they bump into things. They're such klutzes when they fly.
And yet it'll sit in my hand even when I'm not holding it tightly. And then when it's ready, it will fly away. They're just
They keep their legs
absolutely
close to their
amazing.
body most of the time.
The versatility of hummingbird flight makes them great distance flyers, and it also gives them superb up and down mobility, as you can see especially in western Ecuador. Most of the hummingbirds live in a preserve high up in the mountains, a sort of hummingbird central, but their influence extends to the village far below. The importance of hummingbirds in protecting their habitat isn't lost on the people of Loma Alta.
We are teaching environmental education to the people of our community. We have 8 private teachers in our village, and only 1 paid by the government. This is very important since we are providing oxygen for the planet. Other countries are polluting the air, while here we are producing oxygen for the world to breathe. Here we still have water and habitats for diverse species of animals, some of which are in danger of extinction.
Buenos dias. One thing that is unusual about Loma Alta is that they have an ecological teacher and spends one day in each of the 4 schools in the area because of the importance of this area nationally and internationally. So we're going to take a look inside one of the classrooms and see how it is in Loma Alta.
Pero todas las aves tienen un hábitat, un lugar donde
All birds have a home, a place to which they've adapted. There is a group of birds inhabiting the dry zone here at the base of the mountain. But in the forest, another group of birds live in that different habitat. Our environment is extremely important because we develop inside it. Without it, we can't live, but because of it, we exist and are healthy. All the trees produce oxygen for the clean air we breathe. The preserve next to Loma Alta provides water for us to live.
Lorenzo Tomala, the teacher, is trying to give the basic principles of ecology to these children and describe why their land is important to them. Most of them have never been to the reserve, and many of them never will have the opportunity. He's trying to get them to familiarize themselves with this land, which is so productive. They will not have a chance to know outside of this class.
The neighboring arid zones along the coast don't have water. We provide them with the water they need. These other communities don't have our advantage, which is thanks to the conservation of the forest.
I'm one of the lucky ones who gets to climb up to the preserve with Alejandro Ramirez, who knows these hills better than anyone else. He's done this for nearly half a century, and he's noticed that more than just the hummers have benefited from the creation of the preserve.
Está en el punto Carrizal. Estamos grabando una manada de monos. Allá está uno. Allá está. Mira,
Es grande.
allá está, es grande.
I've never seen a howler monkey before.
Es el jefe que está ahí.
That's the chief one.
Ahí está bonito.
Alejandro has pointed out to me that they are... ¿Qué tiran?
Digamos que como nos vean nosotros, Piensa que algo le vamos a hacer.
So there's a bunch of them.
Más al otro lado está otro. Hay 4.
Hay 4. Y uno es más grande, es el macho.
Sí, exactamente.
So the male is the big
Los de
one.
allá están comiendo del fruto del árbol de mango de monte. Pues hay algunos, miren.
There must be at least 20, son 20.
Es raro el mono que se cae de allá.
Well, they're very agile. The howler monkeys, Alejandro says they never fall to the ground, but look at them move.
Son grandes, son bellos. Ante el cazador,
They used to be hunted both for meat and as pets for the house, Alejandro says. But now that with the protection and the reserve, their numbers are increasing and they're getting far less afraid of humans. So they're putting on quite a show for us. So, entonces, their noisy behavior is a result of my being here. Alejandro's been coming up here for 45 years and they know him.
Más poderoso, digamos, se hace dueño de la...
There's actually a little fighting going on between 2 males. Trabaja junto a la familia.
Exactamente.
So this is actually a family and they all work together.
Son muy interesantes.
As they move, you can see that they use the tail. It's not necessarily prehensile, but as a balance. They're tightrope walkers using that tail.
Y hacen la misma operación todito.
Todito,
En
el mismo lugar.
En el mismo lugar. Mean, hacen la caca y pasan para el otro lado.
It turns out that both the males and the females howl, but the male gives the instructions for the whole group to jump. And the entire troop does the same thing. They howl, they move on. So it's a very regimented behavior, and Alejandro is really the expert.
The places the hummers like best, near Hummingbird Central, still lie hours above the howler monkeys. The researchers employ unusual methods for studying hummingbirds in gentle waves. Susan Wethington and her husband have done it for years.
Hummingbirds are New World only species. The greatest diversity is in the tropics. So right at the equator, in a country as Ecuador, the size of Colorado, there's about 130 species. They are not migratory species. Now they may move up and down in elevation and may move around looking for nectar sources, but typically they do not migrate long distances such as we think of in North America. As you go away from the tropics, either north or south, you get fewer and fewer hummingbird species, but you also start having hummingbird species that are migratory. Hummingbirds are the second most diverse family in the New World. And the amount of information that we know about hummingbirds in the tropics is pretty small compared to what we know in the temperate zone. It's surprising how much we don't know about hummingbirds. And the goal is to be able to know what's necessary to preserve and conserve as many hummingbird species as possible. Hummingbirds are dependent upon insects and nectar. In the tropics, you have nectar available to you year-round, whereas in the colder climates, there's an onslaught of nectar in spring and summer, but not much in winter.
Ornithologists have developed a variety of nets to enable them to study birds without harming them.
You want to get that top one, Lee?
In the dense forest below, mist nets work best. But on the open ridgeline, a newly invented trap is used.
This open forest cut over about 10 years ago just seems to be the ideal place for these violet-bellied hummingbirds. My goodness, are they beautiful. They are in great numbers and they're pretty aggressive with each other. We're at an elevation of about the same as Tucson, about 2,300 feet. Oh, here's another one. Here's a rufous-tailed. It's bigger and makes a different, has a different call. They fight with each other of the same species more than they fight with other species.
There were lots of hummingbirds here naturally. Didn't see any obvious flowers, but it looked as though the hummingbirds were using it to cross the ridge. We put up feeders and instantaneously visitation occurred. These birds have never seen feeders before, and at other sites, particularly in the wooded sites, it has taken weeks for them to discover the feeders. At this site, because it's in the open, our guess is that they see the red, they are attracted to red, and the curiosity to see if it had nectar allows them to learn the feeder. But once they discovered the feeders, it became obvious that this might be a way to attract some of the other species that we don't see in the mist nets.
So what do we have in here?
This looks like a violet-bellied hummingbird.
Now, we're trying to figure out, is this really a good method for augmenting the data that the mist nets have
really
collected?
Like it a lot better. It's much more gentle on the birds. They don't get tangled. They don't get stressed.
Isn't he gorgeous? Look at that ear.
Kind of a sweetie.
Violet-bellied.
Yeah.
I can see. Wow. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. So that's an adult male in full plumage. Huh?
Yeah. This guy's in his full glory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what an improvement this is. How long have these been around?
Well, the traps actually was developed by Mike Hall, so it's the Hall trap. Pretty benign system.
Is it just a few years old though?
Just a few years, yeah just a few years.
What an improvement. It does take patience though to sit back there and hold on like you're fishing.
Yeah.
You got to watch it. Instead of watching the bob, you watch the hummingbird hit bob and weave to get into the feeder.
Yeah, the idea is that he'll come down, perch, ideally he'll perch, and as he's reaching forward to drink, that's the moment to drop the trap. So, I have 2 violet bellies. One has a band.
Oh, fantastic. Recaptures are one of the best parts. You never know when you banded them or where it was banded. 944. This is a bird we banded earlier in the week, so all we needed to do is take the band number and we'll feed and release him. But isn't that violet belly just absolutely gorgeous?
Mostly what we're finding out that's really astounding is that we get species that would normally be associated with the Andes coming the whole way over to here. We're about 1,000 meters lower and 200 kilometers to the west of the Andes. But we're getting species like the Andean emerald. We're getting other species that had previously only been recorded in the Andes, like certain fruit eaters, scaled fruit eater. So we're extending the ranges of where those birds are. And birds are known to really go for particular habitats. So they're probably tracking, maybe island hopping on this kind of vegetation from the Andes over to here. The local people who have worked on the project have really gained skills that are pretty unusual for this community. And so people like Pascual Torres and Mauricio Torres have really done extraordinarily well. They take out the birds from the nets, they manage the nets, they can handle the birds in the proper way, and they're very careful with the scientific data. And the future of the preserve depends so much on the local people and how they make rules and how they make others obey the rules.
Hummingbirds and the forest where they live forge strong ties to the villagers below.
If we or the other community members of Loma Alta don't protect these forests, it would be a travesty because the forest would disappear. Right here is the primary headwaters of the rivers and the streams down below. When rain or fog occurs up here, farmers down below and the adjacent communities greatly benefit.
So this water is pumped with a portable pump from below in a well that is fed immediately by the river. ¿Y cuántas hectáreas aquí sembrado?
Hectárea y media.
Hectares. So he's got about 3.5 to 4 acres planted from this one pump, and a variety of crops that range from beans for household consumption to chili peppers for international consumption, and everything in between. Okay, so this is a lime tree. Cristobal is raising this simple little grass-like thing. It's probably lemongrass, but they use it for a tea and for an aromatic herb. He's got oranges. He's got, ¿qué es esto?
Frijol.
Okay, he's got beans here. Yeah, these are frijoles. He's got an orchard of coconut palms over here. We got a banana plant. So we've got a young papaya tree here. The bananas are everywhere. Of course, Ecuador is a country of bananas, but each family has its own. And all of these are for home consumption. But then there are other crops that he's planted that are actually for sale, cash crops. Aquí hay ají?
Sí, ají.
So he's got a big patch of hot chili peppers, which I don't usually associate with Ecuador. But even from here, you can see them growing.
Sí, hay como unas 4,000 matas sembradas.
So he's got 4,000 of these hot chili plants, and a lot of them are for international sales. So they go all over the world. They even put them in huge vats and put them apparently in vinegar. And they're sold everywhere. I never thought of Ecuador as a major producer of chilies, but you learn. Mucho ají.
Claro, por acá sí para el mercado también.
So this is a source of these red beans I've seen. They like to have them in Ecuador with beans and rice. Seems to be the staple food. Tastes very much like a mixture of a green bean and a dried bean. It tastes okay, but I think they would be delicious with rice, a little chili on top. You can get everything right here in Cristobal's garden. This very colorful corn silk here. It's nice to know that the Ecuadorian diet is based on corn and beans and chili, just as the way it is in Mexico. Only they do everything slightly differently here.
Coge el río y ya viene aquí. Todo eso es el río.
So the water for this irrigation comes from the mountains in the form of dew, and it condenses in the mountains and goes into the arroyo and then winds up here irrigating the crops. It's a pretty clear connection.
Sí.
So since the protection for the forest has begun, they can see more water because they know that the garua, the fog, has been collected, and they can see the difference. Before it was dusty here, now there's water. That's pretty clear testimony.
Growing numbers of tourists are traveling to Ecuador to see hummingbirds. But the real key to the hummer's preservation lies with the people who live there.
I hope more and more that Guayaquileños, the people in Ecuador, become more interested in getting off the beach and coming up here into the mountains and seeing these beautiful birds that are in their country. And of course it's great when people from other countries come as well, but my biggest hope is that Ecuadorians become more impassioned about their own forests and their own birds, and that the kind of nature adventures that so many people throughout the world love will start to be more common here in Ecuador.
From coastal deserts to high mountains, from Alaska to Argentina, hummingbirds have found their ecological niches, but they seem especially to thrive in tropical forests. Well, these little critters, more than any other bird family, have attracted our human attention. The more we unlock their secrets, the more we can be sure that their dazzling colors, their high-pitched chatter, and the whir of their wings will continue to delight us.
1,000 years ago, people living in the Mexican state of Chihuahua created one of the most important trading centers in North America.
We're certainly in Mennonite country still.
Today, some unexpected immigrants have made Chihuahua famous for cheese. And yet, hidden in the hills are towns where Holy Week celebrations have their own indigenous flavor. Next time on The Desert Speaks.
As you walk around the tree, you can't help but notice these root buttress type features that help stabilize the tree. These are very thin soils, and without these, a shallow rooted tree that's over 100 feet tall could easily be blown over in the wind. This helps stabilize it, and at the same time provides a habitat for all sorts of other plants and animals. These trees are almost an ecosystem in themselves.
Funding for The Desert Speaks was provided by Desert Program Partners, representing concerned viewers making a financial commitment to the education about and preservation of deserts, and by the Stonewall Foundation. Copies of this and other episodes of The Desert Speaks are available from KUAT. To order, call 1-800-841-5923, and please be sure to mention the episode number.